Welcome to our next adventure with Chemology 411, a podcast about anything and everything. Kim and her guests will take you behind the scenes, behind the story, or behind the bar. So sit back. Make sure your seatbelt is fastened, tray table in its upright position, all carry-ons stored under the seats. But for this adventure, electronic devices must remain on. As we are ready to take off on our next adventure, introducing Kim Schultz and Chemology 411.
Welcome to episode 3. Today we're going to talk about smartphones and how they've changed our lives. We have a meme that we're going to talk about whether we agree or disagree about a degree. And we're going to continue our discussion on nonprofits and why we feel you should donate. I'm Kim Schultz, and I'm the adventure coordinator for this show. Let's say hi to my co-host, Tyson Harley.
What's going on? Is this where I talk about my general last few, or we go through that, like what's just going on with us in general, or what?
It's Boss's Day.
It's Boss's Day. Well, you're the boss, ma'am.
You know what? And I celebrated. I took a nap.
Yes, we actually napped at the same time, but don't get any ideas. We found out that we have such a rapport.
Yes.
That we met at a certain little later in the evening, and I'm like, hey, so I just took a big long nap, and then Kim said, hey, me too.
Well, you know, I guess maybe...
A real mental connection, you know?
You know how, like, best friends, like, their menstrual cycles start lining up? Maybe...
Hold up.
Maybe podcasters... Our naps times start lining up.
Hilarious.
It could be a thing, we don't know.
Nothing wrong with being Nappy McNapperton, I always say.
I guess you could reach out to other podcasters who have co-hosts and ask them if they nap at the same time. I mean, unless they're a couple.
And then,
yeah,
that's different.
Well, no, that might be some science right there. Well, I mean, you stayed up late.
I stayed up late, yes.
And I'm just old. Like, part of menopause makes you tired.
Yeah, at least I don't have to worry about that whole thing.
Yeah, you do not. It's not fun.
There is a, quote, male menopause, but I'd say that's with a lowercase letters in comparison. You know, it is a term these days, right? So,
you know, I think they have terms for everything nowadays. I think guys are just trying to jump in on our fun.
Yeah. Oh, we suffer so much. I don't know why that guy had a feminine... Oh, because he wants to jump in on the fun. I don't know why he had a lisp and a feminine-sounding voice. He wants to jump in on the fun. So it's cold. That's gross. I noticed that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you told me to remind you. You wanted me to tell... You had a story you needed to tell me. So go ahead and tell me, because I don't even know what this is about.
Quick, so fantasy football, I still suck, turns out. First season, so we won't go into it. Did finish Stranger Things 2. Ooh, good season. I loved it.
You're going to love 3.
That's where I said that I watched season 1 and I was an early adopter of that. And I was like, no, what if the season 2 can't hold up? And I was kind of scared, but it did. And then also I want to mention real quick that I did get a new podcast over on the Scales of Truth. It's a light one. It's about sports. Speaking of sucking in fantasy football, hey, let's talk about the Chiefs.
I gave up at 1 o'clock. I was done. 5 penalties in like the first minute.
So anyway, we're over in that direction of the country, and I do talk about them a bit, because when you look at sports, sometimes you can kind of psychoanalyze. It's interesting. Also talked about the Patriots and these awful calls that have been happening. So go check out that on the Scales of Truth, and I also have a media presence on Facebook, so you can look for Tyson Harley there. Now, as to the lunch story, it's so great. It's so great. So I work in a downtown area, and we have a Walgreens at what I call the Mos Eisley Spaceport Cantina Walgreens. Because it's 24-hour area, pedestrian, and you can just bet there's going to be characters. So every time I walk in, I'm just like, in my head, I will, and sometimes out loud, people can hear me humming, "You'd better watch yourself. I've got the death sentence on 12 systems. Oh, well, be careful. You'll be dead." You know that whole scene?
Yeah.
So... Usually I get that flavor by going to Walgreens. Well, I never go to the fast food restaurants, but it's the same type of thing. So I'll go to Subway, which is not quite the same thing as fast food, even though it is. It's not going to McDonald's or Wendy's, but I'm close to a McDonald's.
Right.
Same idea, same character. I'm like, I guess I'll go. I've worked there for coming up on 2.5 years, and I've never walked over to McDonald's. So, and it's only like 2 blocks away. I go there, and it did not disappoint.
No, not our downtown.
Let me tell you, it did not disappoint. So something happened, and I had to realize, you know what, Tyson? When great things come into your life, you need to relish them.
Oh.
For some people, it's through the miracle of love, creating the next generation of the family. For me, it's moments like these. So I'm in McDonald's. I've done the screen. It's screwed up. I was supposed to order some European McDonald's thing, and then the cashier has to tell me that those aren't available. So I have to do a refund thing. So that's another whole thing about the brilliance of these screens, right?
Oh.
And I talked to the cashier. They would have told me straight up.
Are those the ones you have to put your own order in now, do all your own work?
Yeah.
Go through the menus. And
So it took me 10 times as long to do the order, and then it wasn't even the right thing, so I had to do a refund transaction. Anyway, while I'm there, it happened. It happened so quick, and I didn't understand it in a way, even though I did enjoy it. I was in McDonald's in downtown, and the manager, wait for it, choked, wait for it, a man, no, not just a man. I got to view with my own eyes a McDonald's manager choking a one-legged man.
Oh my God.
And I said to myself, I appreciated it. But then after I sat back and then I really realized what I saw. Now there's a story behind it. But I'm like, dude, I just got to see a manager of a retail establishment choke a one-legged man. So it turns out that the guy is probably a regular. So he goes up behind him and he starts choking him. And he's just kind of messing with it.
He was playing around with it.
But this is an adult manager. This is a
my.
real live one-legged man. He was choking him. And can you imagine the optics? I mean, just think if anybody besides me, because I had too much fun with it, went to, sir, and then gets back to the district manager.
Right.
It's like, Harold, I have a story about you choking a one-legged man in front of other customers. No, it wasn't even like that.
No. That's not what happened.
Imagine that.
I mean, yes, I was choking him, and yes, he had one leg. But there's a little bit more context to that.
There's nuance here.
Right.
Listen, the guy's not using the word nuance. Can we be honest here? So anyway, the great thing is that then, I'm kind of just having fun with it and waiting for my order. And I say to the guy, because I end up walking, watch out for those managers that try to choke you, man. So the guy points to the manager, and the manager gives him one of these gestures like, I'll do it again.
Right. I'm not afraid.
I just had, it made my day for the rest of the day. I had to tell about 3 or 4 people. So, I mean, I know, again, when life gives you those types of moments, you have to cherish them.
Yes, you do cherish them.
When in front of you, a retail manager chokes a one-legged man, you have a story for the rest of your life. You have your story.
Yes, you do.
Anyway,
yes, and you are correct. Downtown does not disappoint. We used to have the lamp dancer. And he was awesome. And so Google him, go to YouTube. You can see the lamp dancer in Topeka, Kansas. It was a guy who, he kind of lives down there, and he basically would bring his lamp out, had his music playing in his ears, and he danced with the lamp. He danced with all different things. He actually got hit by a car, so he was in the hospital. So now he was back out the other day in a wheelchair.
Right, you're right.
So, anyway, and then I've got a gentleman over here by my house that stands out in front of the church preaching. Uh-huh. And when you most people would probably be afraid of him. He's about 6'5", pretty big guy. And I mean, he is preaching to the Lord, and he's yelling and screaming. Then he's got his music on and he's jamming to it. And every time I walk by him, he always says, the Lord is with you. And I always go, thank you for your blessing. And he just keeps his dancing, and I just keep walking. I don't get away from it. So yeah.
Oh boy, that was the best. That was the best day ever. When I was feeling a little bit down about work, I just thought,
wow.
It's the same reason you listen. Like, I'll listen to comedy at work. Even
Yeah.
episodes that I know, because I've heard them 3,000 times, just makes you a little bit more chipper while you're working. That worked for the rest of the day, believe me.
Well, and you didn't know you were going to a dinner show.
And then the guy also had this hilarious laugh, like it went, the guy who got choked. It was wonderful. It was some kind of wonderful. It almost brings tears to my eyes.
Right, and it was a good thing. It wasn't like it was actually, you know, to me it just sounded like it wasn't like a bad thing. It was such a humorous thing of the interaction of a store manager with customers that they've known, and
it was actual rapport.
that
They probably nap at the same time for all I know.
Oh, I don't know. That's pretty special. Tyson, don't just underestimate the nap.
The nap connection.
The nap
yes.
connection.
So you're right. It wasn't actually mean, but then I just had to realize I could literally term that somebody was choking a one-legged man. I mean, you thought the story of the fugitive was something of the one-armed man, okay.
Right? Nope.
Got nothing on that.
Nope. Not at all.
Anyway, that was my lunch story. We can
That's
get on
awesome.
with it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, there's always something going on downtown. I think in any downtown.
Right.
I mean, if you've got enough population, we have the state of Kansas, and we've got a lot, federal government. We have all that stuff here, so we have a huge downtown presence during the day, and a lot of our low-income housing's down there. So, yeah, we are. Well, today that we're recording this is on the 16th. Like I said, was Boss's Day, but everybody I know was sitting on their edge of their seat, waiting for me to release this one on October 22nd, because this was released on October 22nd, which was the day of my birth.
Boss.
Yeah, like the birthday.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Boss. Yeah. That was very good.
Happy future past.
It's today.
Days of future past.
Of just, you know what? It's Kimtober. So my girlfriends and I, we're going to the casino tomorrow night to play bingo because we're all over 50. And it's our birthday month. So of the 4 people going, 3 of us have birthdays in October.
Whoa. And
so we're doing our little girl message on our text messages back and forth, and Terry's talking about hers, and Susan's talking about hers, and I said, all right, guys, did any of you guys get your Kimtober t-shirts? And they were like, no, did you send it to us? And I'm like, what? I sold, 20,000 in 2 days. It's like a new thing. You guys missed out on the Kimtober t-shirts. So what are we going to wear to the casino to play bingo? Now, side note to that, when the last time we played bingo, we went over to Hayden High School, which is our Catholic high school. They do bingo there. We almost got kicked out because we didn't understand how to play bingo. It's not easy. It's a hard thing. They changed the patterns on a little screen. No one tells us this stuff. My friends and I, we're laughing and giggling. Evidently, you're not allowed to laugh and giggle during bingo.
No fun at bingo. That's the first rule.
It's freaking serious with Dopper bags and stuff. And then she yelled bingo.
Also, don't talk about bingo club.
Yeah. What happens at bingo stays at bingo. Unless you almost get kicked out. I'm like, stop. And my friend Terry, this is like the best quick story, and then we'll move on. We're sitting there, and there's the cards, and there's like 9 different cards on one big piece of paper, and you're daubing it, so you're looking at it, and they're like B5, and so you look B5, and you stomp, 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 stomp. My friend Terry, I love her to death, whose birthday was just a couple weeks ago, she goes, this is why I don't like math.
It's like, that's not really
Terry,
math.
There's no math.
Not math.
There's no math. Just daubing a number. Like you don't have to calculate anything.
You don't have to carry anything.
Nothing. And it's because there was numbers. We almost got in trouble for that.
That is highly math. Except that maybe would have gotten in trouble. Except that probably a third of the crowd laughed if they heard her.
No, they would not laugh because we're interrupting their bingo. And when you say bingo and it's not a bingo, it's
there's hell to pay.
It's some bad looks. Like those bingo people, they give you a look like you are going to hell. You are. They could have been.
Just kidding. A little Catholic school humor.
So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. So we reached our first freezing night the other night. Have you turned your heat on in your house?
No. Now, earlier in the mild part of the, this little mild time we'd had, I did finally open up the windows, but then a couple nights I forgot that one of my, and it shut off the the system. I forgot that one window was still cracked or whatever. So no, I haven't turned it on yet.
You are tough.
I usually don't turn on AC real quick, but for whatever reason this year I turned it on and left it on. Because I've got some of those high windows where they're just kind of half windows, so someone would have to climb up 7 foot and kind of work their way 7 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot off the ground. So I will leave those open a large part of the day until it gets. But this year I actually turned the system on a little bit earlier. So no heat yet for me.
Oh my gosh. It's like this, and it's going to be cold, and it goes to heat. I mean, it's 68 degrees, but I work at home, so I'm here all day long, and I can't be around cold, and I sound like I'm ill because this weekend I spent it down at the Lenexa Chili Cook-Off, which is close to Kansas City, Kansas, and there's 190 booths that register for this chili cook-off, and this is my 4th year going, and I went down there with my friend and stayed at his house, and he doesn't believe in turning on his heat. And Friday night we were standing outside till about I'd have to say 8 o'clock, so it was probably like 40 some degrees outside. I had layers on, and I thought, man, we're going to go into the bar soon, so I didn't want to.
Friday night was going to get.
Friday night was the night that it was going to. Oh yeah,
at that time it was already in the 40s.
Yeah, it was like 40s, but my car was right there. But we were getting ready to go inside the bar, and I knew that was going to be hot, so I didn't go get that extra coat because I had like 9 different coats in my car. It's because I hate being cold. I'm a summer person. I just want to be hot. So we did that, and then after it warmed up when we got in there, and then we woke up Saturday morning to get ready to go actually start making the chili for the actual event, and it was like 47 degrees in the house. I was so cold in the house. Like
you had like weather
a house. I was like
temperatures in the house.
Yeah,
that's a weather temperature.
That's a
not
weather.
A house
that's
temperature.
not a house. That's an outside when you're camping in a tent. Like I could see that, but it was so cold, and I was like, I had to go down, and I think I even took a picture of it. So I was like, this is ridiculous. And so then it kind of warmed up that day, got up to like 60 some. And then like the lows are supposed to be in the 50s. He's like, well, thank goodness I don't have to turn that heat on. I was like, I don't know if I've ever been here where literally I think he keeps his house at like 59. I don't like that. I work too hard to freeze my ass off inside my house.
Yeah, I don't mind if the house gets to 65-ish or something, but once you go down to the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the house all the time. I said you should get a little radiator heater. I think because then that would keep a little bit of the coldness of the weather out of your house. So anyway, that's my weekend, so that's why I'm kind of stuffed up. It was cold, and my
Very
allergies.
Quickly, you were a part of the people who were competing too. Did they do all right?
We didn't win this year. Last year, no. Well, one of ours won something. A salsa. We did get like a salsa ribbon for salsa, and we put in a bunch of chili. My job at the chili cook-off this year, last year I was the runner. That means I had to take the styrofoam cups, and I had to walk all the way down, wait for the train, cross the train tracks, go over to the community center, stand in line for 15 minutes, and then walk through handing the chili. This year, I was not doing that, so I decided I was going to serve the chili. So I got to talk to the public and serve the chili, and they've kind of kicked Tom off the team because they thought I was awesome. I mean, I was like, sorry, Tom, I know you've been doing it for 15 years, but you're a slacker. So
you say chili about one more time, I'm starting to I usually don't like food commercials don't connect with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I could watch them 3,000 times. Don't care. But all of a sudden, I'm just connecting with the idea of good chili.
My mom might have chili this week. You have to check.
Nice.
You're on Twitter. You can Twitter it out. Facebook will tell you if Mom makes chili at Field of Greens. It's good.
Oh, I should look for that.
Yeah.
Except I'm not on Twitter, so I'll just.
Well, it's on Facebook. If you just follow Field of Greens on Facebook, it'll pop up every day what the soups are.
Nice.
So you can find it. So anyway, today I had a photo shoot because one of my clients is a photographer, and she normally does senior pictures. She is awesome. She's done my family pictures, and she's always done my headshots. And so the last headshot that I have that I've been using for my promo stuff, she's got tired of it. It's been like a year and a half. And she was like, yeah, we need a new picture for you. And so you can't tell a photographer no. And I mean, it's a photo shoot and I'm pretty famous and I'm kind of used to it. And I take a lot of selfies of myself. So I thought I'll let someone else take a picture of me. So I went over there and we went up to her new studio. She's got a beautiful studio right downtown. And we went up there, did some pictures. I mean, it's me, so it's going to be fabulous. She said they look good. Just Photoshop the crap out of it and we'll be fine. Just make sure that everything looks perfect. Anyway, so we go down. We're walking all the downstairs because we're going to do some outside pictures in front of the restaurants that we own. And I got all the way down this long set of stairs and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need my phone. And so I ran all the way back up to get my phone. And I told her, I was like, the other day I went to Walmart. And I pulled out of the driveway and I got down to the end of the road and my phone has Bluetooth and it'll just start spinning like, hey, I lost your phone. Hey, where's the phone? And you look down and you're like, crap, I left my phone in the house. Because when my car's in the garage, it'll pick the phone up. So it's like trickery because you pull out of the driveway and you start to walk down, you look down and I got down there and I was like, I could turn around. No, Kim, you can do this.
I've always said you're a strong woman.
I didn't know if I could do it or not, but I was like, no, go to Walmart. Go to Walmart. But what if something happens at Walmart? You can't call people. Go to Walmart. This is a conversation that I'm literally sitting before I turn to go down the road.
This is how great novels are written.
Yeah, they are. Well, I got to Walmart without my phone. How many times have you done that, people?
Well, by people, are you talking to me? Because I got a different approach.
Yeah. And so I get to Walmart. I only reached for it like 4 times. Like I'm in my car driving to Walmart, and I thought, oh gosh, I need to call Robin and tell her I can't call Robin. I can't call Robin. I don't have my phone. And then I got there, and I was in Walmart, and I heard like a sound. Like I was like, oh, somebody. Oh, not my Facebook. My Facebook is at home. I was like disconnected.
Notifications.
Somebody else did.
Back in my day, if you wanted to call Robin, what you did was go, Robin!
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, it was like the quickest Walmart trip ever. So, like I got in, I was cleaning my kitchen, doing my what do you call it? Declutter. And I got to the point where I needed to buy some baskets and stuff to put things in because I made a major declutter that day. And so I went over and I picked them up and I got home and I cuddled with my phone. I was like, I had to apologize. I'm like, I'm sorry I didn't take you on this adventure with me.
Ooh, next invention. The phone is a little small to cuddle, but we all know that it's no worse than your 5th best thing in your life.
Right.
You should have some big container that's cuddly.
Cuddly?
And you slip it into there.
like to put it in your pillow, like a phone pillow. Oh, I love you. I got home, nobody called, nobody texted, like nothing happened.
Tear.
I thought, I can remember going to the bar back in like the 90s and forget my pager.
Pager.
And then, like, how are people going to page me codes of where we're supposed to meet up after the bar if I don't have it because we're too cheap to pay 25 cents to use a payphone?
Yeah, I leave my phone in my car for the most part when I go into a store. Yeah, I mean, it feels, I'm kind of like a pioneer going across. I'm just missing a Conestoga wagon.
Right?
Practically the same thing.
It's almost exactly the same. And well, it is because, like, you feel that your phone is not with me. Like, I know that my phone is not with me. I'm just like, oh, this is not good. And, like, I can't go to Dillon's without my phone. That's our grocery store because there's coupons that you have to load to your app. So you get there and you're like, I can't save 35 cents. I'm not buying this because I don't have my phone to get the coupon for the 35 cents now. And so besides making phone calls, and our calendars are on there, I mean, somebody might need me immediately and I can't check my calendar. I mean, I may be at Walmart and they'd be like, hey, Kim, you want to meet next week? I don't know. I don't have my phone.
I don't know. So the thing is, for me, I'm kind of the opposite end. I'm not a Luddite because I've had a smartphone for a while. But honestly, for most of the time I've had a phone for years and years and years, it's been a smartphone. It has mostly been the Netflix Chromecast remote control.
Oh.
That's kind of it.
That's
what I mean? I've never had a lot of games.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll cycle through to games, and I don't do calendar off of it. So it's mostly been a very expensive remote.
So your television remote is on your smartphone. I mean,
yeah, just via Chromecast. Watching Netflix
Right.
and have to control it, and then it's a very expensive TV remote and just a tablet that you could have just bought the thing and watched Netflix on your little screen.
just buy a Roku and watch it on your
Right.
TV. You don't have a Roku or a Fire Stick?
I don't, but that's what I got Chromecast for. So
I have Chromecast. I got Fire Stick. I got Roku. I don't want to brag. I'm kind of high techy here when it comes to TV.
a lot of options. Yeah, so I've never used it a lot as far as productivity and also I've never been an entrepreneur, and I've never been a place where you're supposed at a position where you're supposed to have the productivity, the office phone.
Right.
From BlackBerry days on, I've never had a job where I'm supposed to have a phone at work.
Right. Well, and the phone has allowed me to have my job. I mean, that
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that
For an entrepreneur, it makes all the sense in the world.
Right. Yeah. I have to have the phone.
But you probably had the early electronic organizers. I'm trying to think of some of them where it was there was one called a Sony Clie, for instance. And I remember at the time you're like, well, won't this eventually be a part of a phone? So there'd be those it's basically a smartphone without the phone. It'd have apps on it and stuff.
Like
if
a
you remember
iPod?
Late 90s, you'd be getting some of these things where it's like, won't there be a phone attached to this at some point? And I remember Sony. I was working for Sony as a customer service, and I'm like, they are missing out on this. And sure enough, then they didn't go very much into smartphones because of it, because they were selling these separate electronic organizers. So you probably had the organizers back in the day, or the physical organizers. They've probably been big on the calendars.
Yeah, I've always had to have a calendar because I schedule a lot of appointments and I attempt to put them on the right day. I mean, and I have I've kind of grown with the phone. My phone I use a lot just for pictures because I do a lot of marketing for taking selfies and taking pictures of all the events I go to help market those events, and I can't send my cards without pictures on them. So I'm taking pictures. I take food pictures like we've talked before so that I can promote the restaurants and stuff that I go to. And the calendar. I remember when the iPod came out, I think, and it had all the games and things on it. So it wasn't a phone. It looks like an iPhone, but it was before the iPhone. So you had your iPod, and then you had a thing. I'm not an iPhone person. I have Samsung, LG. I haven't converted over to that iPhone. Someone hands me an iPhone. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm like, how do you back out? And they're like, over here. Everything is backwards. They act like I'm an idiot, and I'm like this. Why don't you do my phone? Oh, you can't find my back arrow? Well, that's just ridiculous.
You're so smart, huh?
Yeah,
Apple
you think
user.
you're big and bad. So, but, I think I kind of look at the phones like when we were playing, when the video games came about. Now, I was Atari, but I didn't sit at home and play Atari all day long, but I did play me some Atari, and my mom and dad kind of kept us because my dad was a technology junkie. I think we had the fifth VCR in in our community. My dad bought it. We were the third person at Duncan's Movie Magic. They were our video store. The 2 owners were the first 2 cards, and then it was my dad. Because
he was an early adopter, as they say.
He was, and it weighed about 50 pounds. The VCR did. It was a huge VCR. It was, I think, $800. So we're looking at like in the 80s, early 80s.
Like a $2,500 these days.
Right, and now I'm thinking this is why I thought we were rich. I did not know we were not rich. But my dad bought he used his money and wisely, evidently, and I got to have all my friends over. So we played the video games, and then the video games came to where kids weren't even leaving their houses, and they were playing video games. And then video games have expanded, and I think they've kind of gone down a little bit. It's not as much. I don't hear about it as much. Maybe it's because I don't have kids that age.
Oh, it's huge still. I mean, with all the sports stuff and these where now we don't sound young, do we? But where they're connected on the internet to
right. That's what I'm saying. But now but instead of playing at home by yourself, those games are through the internet. So they're playing. Right. They're getting their little things and they're playing games and they're talking to people in Russia and Japan, and their teams are all over the United States and stuff like that. And they're communicating because our society has moved us into this non-personal communication. Now it's in through gaming, but you also have it in your phones. So a lot of people, they have their Candy Crush, they have their I can't remember what mine I have one that I play. And I was like I can't remember what it is, but I play with like 50 people on my team and we kick butt, but I don't have to play it. Like nothing happens to me if I don't play it. So we did, we have I lost my train of thought. We have our phones, but now everything is done on them. So I find that I try to stay off my phone when I'm out with people. Like I don't have my phone out all the time, but I do notice that if I'm not interacting with somebody, then this is where we're different. When I'm not interacting with someone, I get bored like that. And so my phone comes out and I'm scrolling through Facebook because I'm bored of the conversation. And like, I find myself like, Kim, put the phone away. Like, that's rude. But I'm like, this is a boring conversation. Like, maybe they'll take the hint. Like, quit talking about this. And I'm like, I get my phone out and I'm looking all important on my phone. And really, I'm just kind of like
zoning out.
It's like, it gets boring or they're not even talking. And then I get bored. So and when I'm at home, I do the same thing. I'm like, where's my phone?
Do you talk to somebody on your phone at the register or
no.
So always, if I'm even talking to someone, I'd be like, hey, just give me a second. I'm at the register.
I think
I'll be right back.
Absolutely rude. I think that anytime that you are at the drive-thru or you are going through the grocery stores or something like that, get off your freaking phone. Your conversation.
Just for a minute. Say, hey, I'll be right back with you. Give me a second.
I always say, and I'll even have somebody, I'll be at the store, I'm like, are you checking out? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, stop talking to me. Like, talk to the person there, unless you're doing self-checkout. And then put your phone down, freaking hurry up because other people are waiting. Like, I do find that rude, and I'm very cautious when it comes to customer service. If I'm at a restaurant and I'm on a phone call with somebody and the waitress comes over, the waitress is first to me.
Right.
I'm like, hold on just a second. I put my phone down and I give my attention because the person can hang up, but I am at that waitress's table and I need to give them my attention.
And, there's something about wait staff would tell you that it takes forever to get an order now, and then they complain about how long it takes. The customers complain about how long it takes us because, hey, put down your phone until you made your order.
Right.
Can you just do that really quickly?
Right. Like today at my lunch with after my photo shoot, because she's my client, so we did have some business to talk about. Her and I got in there. We were talking on the way down into the restaurant. And when we were talking, we sat down. They brought us the menus over. We were talking. The waitress comes over, gets our drink, and we hadn't looked at the menus yet. And I'm like, we have to stop talking.
Right.
Let's order our food, and then we can talk after that. Because she's like, are you guys ready? And I'm like, never been here before. So let me look at the menu, picked out, what I wanted to eat, and then we started talking. So reality is you have to be respectful, whether you're in person or on the phone. But phones drive me nuts. If I see someone in front of me gabbing on their phone and ignoring the checkout person, that's a pet peeve of mine. I want to say, listen, you're not that important. And, your boy, the guy you're chatting with, or whoever you're talking to, they can wait. Say, I'll call you back. Hold on, put it in your purse, lay it down, and communicate with that person. Yeah, you are correct on that.
But some people don't. They just need to be taught. It's just like the old days. Some people used to be on the phone all the time. It was just the phone in the house.
Right. I couldn't. I was laying on the phone. I talked for hours on the phone.
So they need to call the next person. Speaking of too important, I remember when Bluetooth guy was still around after Bluetooth little head things, little earpieces were not that cool. It's like nobody thinks you're a business person. Nobody thinks this is high stakes. Pull up your overalls.
That's kind of funny, because with those little earpieces, what I used to say was we could basically fix some mental illnesses, because when you're walking down the street, 20 years ago, and you've got the person talking to themselves, and they're talking to themselves, you're like, that's a crazy person. They're like, who are they talking to? All we have to do is put a Bluetooth earpiece in their ear, send them on their way. And everybody be like, man, he's important. He looks like he's not, but he's got a Bluetooth in his ear, and that conversation.
At least they wouldn't be saying he's crazy.
That's crazy.
Until he's, talking to God and and refers to him as, monkey Jesus or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, I guess not.
You know what? They're like, he's a marketing guy. He's putting in a marketing promotion. Man, I wonder who Monkey Jesus is going to be. That's probably this. You know what? Write that down, guys, because that's probably next year's Christmas present.
This is corporate espionage. Write that down quickly. I think we caught something important.
Or go out with your little earpiece on and start going, no, those stocks are going to go down. And people be like, write it all down. Like, nope, just crazy person. Just a crazy person.
The other thing is that when people are trying to talk business very loud in front of you on their headset, it's like, okay, we got it. You think you're important. Just so you know, we don't got that we think you're important.
Right.
We just got that you think you're important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I never had an earpiece. I never had the Bluetooth earpiece. It came with one of my phones. It never worked. I could never figure it out.
I just never liked the. I do use a headset, but it's just a wired one. It's just a corded one.
Well, I have my earphones, like my things now that I can use.
So I don't have to put it up to my ear, because I don't think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
Your brain.
Well, so I think that what we've learned is that Kim needs her phone. And I try to keep it. And I was at Disney a couple years ago, and it had rained. It was a miserable trip. My poor uncle, his wheelchair was messed up. So we'd been sitting outside. It was just a messed up day. And I was like, where's my phone? And I could have swore I laid it down on the bench outside. I go out on the bench where the towels are that we dried off his wheelchair. It was gone. So I'm up there at the concierge, and I'm like, I need my phone. And they're like, well, we can just like, no, I need my phone. Like, it's got my tickets on it to fly. It's got everything on it. I need my phone to go this. I need my phone to do that. And I'm like freaking out. And I'm just like, oh my God, like some crazy person. And my uncle's sitting there, and he calls me, and I hear it ring, and it was in my coat right behind him that I didn't. I looked everywhere, but I didn't look in the pocket of the raincoat that I had that was underneath other stuff, and I could hear it, and I was like, my bad. Never mind. I got my phone.
You guys are all right.
You guys
are right. I appreciate you.
You guys can all calm down. I know you were worried about my phone, but man, you're like, that's $500. But I'm on vacation. I'm in Florida. I need that to get on the plane. I mean, I can't. I guess I could print my ticket off. I have to do. I mean, your brain is just like, how dumb are you? First of all, I go into self-sabotage to myself. You're an idiot. You should be paying attention to your phone. That's just stupid. Why are you losing your phone? I didn't lose my phone. I literally just put it in a coat pocket. But we're having a bad day as it is. I was hysterical.
Sometimes I'm so used to misplacing things that I will assume I misplaced it before I've really looked enough to really understand that it's really not where not that far away, and or it's basically where it should be. Oh, turns out it was in one of the various trays. If I would have just looked closer where I keep things, I didn't lose it at all, but I just spent 20 minutes figuring I probably lost it. And, you know, being upside down in my car, looking underneath the seat and reaching, you know, it's like, so you don't even trust that you are not good, that you're good at not losing things. You just go, I probably did again. I do it all the time.
I did, yeah, exactly. So anyway, I don't know what everybody else believes about their phones. I liked it because it allows me to do my job anywhere without carrying a big laptop around. But I also have that, like, it's not the fact that I don't want it with me, but I always think, what if something bad happens? I need to be able to call. Then I think back to when I was younger. If something bad happens, I guess you just died. Or, you know, like alongside the road, your car breaks down, you just had a stranger pick you up. You couldn't call,
because
AAA.
Here's that whole argument of, well, it's really just a sales pitch. Well, it's a guilt sales pitch when you have kids. Well, you know, what if something happens? Well, if something happens, everybody else and their brother has a smartphone. As long as my kid can use their voice or the other person sees them, there are smartphones everywhere. Every single person doesn't have to have it to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So that becomes a sales pitch. What would you do? What are you going to do if they don't have the phone when they need it? It's
you know that we don't have public phones anymore. So if you are let's say that I go out to the lake to go walking, and something does happen, I'm just kind of there by myself, you can't walk over to where the phone would have been before, call the operator and say, hey, I need help. You don't have a phone and there's not another person around. You're pretty screwed nowadays.
I go on running. I'm a natural runner, but I haven't been on any type of a exercise regimen regarding running in quite some time. I'm not going to bring my phone with me. I have my phone with me when I run.
See, I have a holster thing because I use Endomondo and it tells me how far I go. It tells me how fast I'm going, how many miles I go. So it keeps track of all that. That's the other thing.
We're addicted to data, whether it helps us or not. Like, how many times have you gone towards a metropolitan area where you more or less know exactly where you're going, but you still turn on Google Maps?
Right.
Just now I know that I'm going to get there at 3:15. You know, and it's like, still set for 3:15. You know where you're going.
Yeah, let's not get to Google Maps. Google Maps let me down on Friday for my meeting. I literally had to pull over because I didn't know to get off 435. If I went north or south. I kind of knew, but I'm in Kansas City, so it's a little bit more. Topeka, we don't have this problem.
You didn't scout it earlier, like without the smartphone.
But I've been there. Yeah, I would have known. But I said, to my Google, I need directions to here, and it was just spinning. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm restarting my phone. I'm asking it again. I finally had to pull off the road over into the parking lot off the highway
to try to get some
because I don't. Well, no, I just needed to get to Waze, but I'm not going to drive on the highway and try to calculate Waze and put some information. I'm not going to text because the other one was pre-programmed. But this wasn't. So I pull over and Waze got me, and it was opposite of what I was going to do. And I'm thinking, okay, I never will make that mistake again. Because now I know which way to go, and you are right. Before that, I would have had it all printed out on my printout, and I'd have been paying attention, driving by myself, looking down at a map, trying to get where I was going for my, whatever that was called. Back in the day, we used to have that. It wasn't Google Maps, but it was MapQuest. But besides that, I got lost in Kansas City all the time. I had to stop and ask every time I went down there. Because it was just confused me because we don't have that. We have 470 and you're done or whatever it is.
You're finished.
That's it. You don't have 35, 435, 470,
remember
670.
you'd have the books of metropolitan areas if you wanted to get them. It'd have the little grid up front and it'd say, hey, you can see what part of town you're trying to get into. You go to that page, it'd say this part of town's on page 24.
Right.
And then you'd open up 24 and it was page 24 and it'd be an 8.5 by 12, zoom in of that.
Yeah.
You could follow along that way. I definitely had a few of those maps as opposed to the big fold-out maps, which I might buy maps for the metropolitan area, but you can't use those in the car.
Well, and when you
without a
with a partner, like with somebody in there. When you're by yourself, how distracting was a map back in the day, as opposed now I just hit my Bluetooth and I'm like, Google, this is where I need to go, and it just tells me to go. Or people have navigation. When my next car will have navigation, I will do that. I'm pretty sure I have something on my car, but
I don't think it's going to help. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to avoid it with my next car, honestly, but I'm not going to care to use it, honestly.
Says the introvert.
Like I'm going anywhere anyway.
All right, so last week we did start a topic about nonprofits, and it was started kind of about like if you wanted to open a nonprofit, there's a lot of people that were wanting to do it, and I wanted to make sure that people understood what you should be doing before you got to the nonprofit. Important things to know, making sure that you pick the right board and you have the accountant and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to talk about two different things, but we are going to take an excursion today because the other stuff went long, and the excursion is going to go over the actual taxes on being a donor. Because one of the things we're going to talk about, we're going to catch up a little bit with the stuff we left off with last time with the excursion of episode 2 and the actual episode. Talk a little bit more about that, and then we're going to go over to an excursion for episode 3, and we're going to talk what gets me nerds out as the tax person, how donating affects your taxes.
So it'll be, you might think that, first of all, there's follow-up questions from the last time around nonprofits and board members being paid.
Yes.
So we looked up that. We weren't consistent. We weren't totally sure what the deal was. So that's part of it. And the other part is, you might think that, maybe I don't donate because of the tax situation. I got to get that all cleared up. And if I can't get that detail, I'm less likely to, I'm not the type of person who's going to be that organized. Then you find yourself hesitating at donating.
Right.
And the very broad situation, but we'll give details on the excursion, is that you probably are not going to be doing that level of detail regardless. So
right.
We'll talk about that, and even whether it's beneficial financially. Well, first of all, whether it's even applicable.
Right.
And then second of all, if it's as financially beneficial as you might think. And oh, by the way, we did do the excursion from last week. If
yes,
you guys
we did.
Didn't see that.
Yep, it's right after.
We went ahead and made an excursion, and it's up as well.
So you'll want to listen to the excursion to get some of the things. We will recap a little bit. First of all, I have always been told, and I still agree, that it should be this way, that if you serve on the board of a nonprofit, I don't believe that you should be getting paid for that position. That's just where I stand, but it's not against the law.
Philosophically, that's the standard approach, but it's not an absolute limit.
And I think that and some states can make it a law that they say you can't be paid. So it has to do a state by state. But I think that most people were assuming like I did, that when you serve on a board, you're not getting paid. And I get
outside of just the compensation for travel and simple fees,
right?
Reimbursement type of stuff,
correct.
Stuff.
And you would hope that person's donation, because when you're filling out grants, a lot of the grants say, what is the percentage of board donations to your organization? And so a lot of them require, when you get your little board book, it'll say that you have to contribute this much money a year to the organization, or you have to have a golf team, or you have to do that. But you've got to be a financial asset to the organization. Okay, so that's kind of keeps people that are just wanting to be on it. Now, there's advisory committees, there's other things you can be on if that's not what you want to do. And a nonprofit's going to always take a volunteer to help out with any of these things going on. But as a board, you're building that board to build the money, and they are running this organization, and they're telling the executive director or president what to do. So you want people on the board that are just not like, well, I can volunteer to help out at the snow cone place at the carnival that we're going to have. That's, they probably don't want to dedicate that much time to go to board meetings all the time time if they don't have, if they just want to help out. It's totally different. But I can't see. And so I looked some different things up, and you talked about, was it Indiana?
Yes, Indiana University, something to do with their health system or something. So that Indiana University's health.
Yes.
Indiana University Health's a nonprofit, and that's where some of the board members were paid in the range of $46,000 down to about $15,000. There are actually a couple that weren't paid, but they had about a 13-member board, I think. They worked about 6 hours per week, and some pretty significant compensation, which we found out was legal.
But like only like of the other organizations like that, and that was a 501c3. 70%, which I read, around 70% of the other organizations do not compensate their board members because they believe that the people give them more money knowing that their board is there as a volunteer and not being paid by these donations.
Well, the other thing too is that you don't want them to think you have reasons to not compensate. I don't know if you want to go through those, and that won't be a part of the excursion.
No, we're going to go over that part.
Yeah, so we can cover that then. But yeah, I mean the philosophy is pretty straightforward when it comes to whether you should compensate or not. But then we know that other boards are compensated, so there's the arguments for that. And I think that probably Kim and I agree that we would lean toward the non-compensation and the reasoning to not compensate them in any large way or in any really significant way.
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, if they do compensate, the board isn't the one making the compensation. It's an outside independent directors or independent compensation committee.
Right.
But they really need to make sure that before they do anything, that they go to the IRS to make sure that it's fine, because it all is going to be listed on the 990, and there's a bunch of the IRS has different rules for that, so they would want to make sure that they're in the guidelines with that. And then also, if it's in their bylaws, the actual agency, most of them say board members are not compensated. So, and some of them don't have it in there at all, which I guess at some point they could compensate if they want to. But what I found is we have a list of from the which website was this? ASAEcenter.org has reasons not to compensate board members.
The American Society of Association Executives, by the way.
There you go. They have a thing, and I'm going to tell you that I agree with the why nots, and I kind of laugh at the reasons why. Like, I kind of read them, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to read these because this is kind of funny to me, and it's kind of insulting at the same time of why they think it. In Kimology, I mean, it's basically, this is Kimology, and I have my own opinions. I have some very strong opinions. I work with nonprofits all the time. I'm the one doing the accounting. I see the money all the time. I'm the one that has to go to the board and say, you guys need this and this and this and this. And I'm the one that gives them the financials. And I just don't know if I saw this come across that I'm going to pay, somebody $20,000 that they for 6 hours, and I'm looking at the employees of this nonprofit making $24,000 a year, putting in a 40-hour work week. I could not stay there.
We
like,
mentioned
I wouldn't
that
want to
last
work
week
there.
that it's this fine line that they have to balance about compensating and even just being a nonprofit and having to be careful not to treat good-hearted employees in a bad way, knowing not a lot of money's coming in, but there's that fine line of, hey, they're good-hearted, and that's why part of why a lot of them are working there.
Right.
But then you don't want to get those employees to just not be in good shape financially because of that. So it's a fine line, given it's not for profit and there's not, giant government contractor money coming in or the like. So it's interesting.
But imagine if they're paying a board member $46,000 for 6 hours a week. what does that even come down to per hour?
Too much.
Okay, so what are they paying their employees if they're matching that with the employees? I mean, are their employees making, $450,000 to greet the people? I mean, I'm really sure that's not happening. So what makes these board members for their 6 hours, so let's go through some of these, the reasons not. Board members are thought of as volunteers, as they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, they are. It's a volunteer board.
It's nonprofit. You're not supposed to be in it for the money. And
No.
especially if you're the board, and especially you don't want to be financially tied to the outcome per se. You want to be tied to what kind of good that nonprofit can do.
Right.
Right.
Donors and members expect their monies to be spent on services, and this is true. So one thing that I would like to tell people is designate your donation. When you donate to a nonprofit, you can designate your money. They might not like me saying this, but designate it. If you know the mission, whatever there is, and the mission is A and B, you can tell them, I want you to take this $100,000 and I want it to be used specifically for A. And then they're left trying to figure out how to pay the staff and pay the bills and stuff like that. A lot of times they do grants that get that money, but if you are giving money to an organization, you can tell them, if they're a nonprofit, a 501c3, you can designate funds. That's exactly what a grant does. A grant will come in and say, this money can only be used to buy office supplies.
Right.
All right, so members are willing to give of their time and themselves to further a cause. There are no stockholders. Nonprofits are organized and operated to serve a mission. Boards,
as we said, mission, not shareholder price.
Correct.
Not shareholder, you know what I mean.
right. And I bet they'd probably get in trouble if they made more money, if they raised more money. That'd probably be a no-no. I would hope so. Like we talked about, if somebody came in and said, I want to give you $10 million.
Even though executives can make a good amount of money for running it well.
Yeah,
not
the executive
board.
can, but the board, if the board is making money because their organization that they work for donates a big amount of money, I would have to say that would probably be bad. A bad thing.
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe we can, because I didn't even know you could be paid. So maybe we're wrong on that, but that would be a little bit weird.
At least a bad thing, it seems odd and fishy, even if it's not a legal situation.
Right. So boards that pay members could discourage volunteering, because I already have kids out there that I'm like, hey, do you guys want to come over and work at the carnival? How much does it pay? A good feeling, a lot of good feeling that you're helping out this organization. So now they're like, well, why would I come and volunteer? I read the $990. You guys are paying these people $46,000 a year.
So there's two things, right? There's the volunteers on the lower level hear that and feel jaded about the organization. And then societally, the bigger argument of if all of a sudden it becomes a bigger and bigger thing for board members to get paid, it becomes less likely a particular board member in a particular organization and their bylaws restrict and prohibit paying the board members.
Right.
So both of those aspects.
So board members that pay members could discourage charitable giving.
Same idea as before. It was same idea. It's like charitable giving via volunteering, or they feel jaded about your particular organization because your board members are making so much for so little work. They think that you're not using the money right. Yep.
Boards have the fiduciary responsibility of managing the organization's funds.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to just cross interest, right? I mean, if you're being paid, are you more worried about those funds? And there's just no question if you're not being paid.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, it's no skin off my nose, but it's like, whoa, wait. So we don't have enough money to fund this budget item over here, but yet, what do you cut? Do you cut compensation to the board, or do you cut the services? Yeah, exactly. Boards that pay members could be considered the same as staff, and boards will not want to risk losing the protective status offered in the Volunteer Protection Act, which we were talking earlier.
We didn't look
We
into
wanna
it,
look
but
into
it
that.
seems like it would just, if you're not even being paid and you're offering a service by being a board member out of the good of your heart, you're probably even less likely to be legally held responsible, at least in the legally held responsible and it comes out of your pocket sense.
Right.
Same idea as corporations, right?
Yeah.
Corporations check that divide that liability from the actual persons involved with the corporation. So it's probably something to that effect, but a better protection or similar type protection for a board member if they're not being paid.
Right. Yeah. Because then all of a sudden it kind of muddies the water in my mind. But then again, I'm not for
The
this,
other thing regarding the second to last one, boards that pay members could be considered the same as staff. We have situations also where some boards, and it gets tricky, it's the president, it's the actual executive spending some time on the board and being paid also separately as a member of that board, which gets really fuzzy because then he does have a financial connection. And because it's kind of like the bureaucrat argument for government versus office holders. It's like, who's running the ship? Quote, deep state, but the older version of that would be, are the bureaucrats, they're the ones who've been there forever. So they try to say, I hear you, young pup who just got elected for the first time to Congress, but you don't know what you're talking about. You're not here all the time. So for those executives to be on those boards gets a little tricky because the boards are supposed to control the executive.
Right.
As much as they know, and as important as those executives are on nonprofits, the boards are supposed to be, it doesn't matter if none of them are making a measly cent. If none of them are making even any kind of mileage just because they had to, doesn't matter. They still are there to tell the executive what to do.
Right.
And we got this weird connections where we saw one where it wasn't even just the primary executive of the company that had some board time, but even a second person had some board time. That's a massive influence on that board.
Right.
As opposed to being advising that board. It's one thing to advise the board, that you expect.
Right.
Otherwise, how do they know what's going on?
Right.
But so I just thought that was an interesting one, considering what we saw in some of these cases where, reality's not meeting the ideal.
Right.
So that was the last of, what was your last one again there?
That was the Volunteer Protection Act. So those are why you're not gonna, you don't want to do it. But now these are, in my mind, some lame ass reasons to pay them.
I bet you who probably helped brainstorm some of these? Board members are making $200,000 to work 4 hours a week.
Well, they want that pros and cons.
and the funny thing for you, and it'll be covered, but some of these board members who are making a lot, they're probably these high rollers are making a lot of money at their regular job too.
Yeah, it's to them $46,000 is
$46,000 is just cake, an easy way to buy a new car that year.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
So let's go over the reasons why. All right. Compensation promotes economic diversity, giving members an opportunity to serve who might otherwise be unable to do so.
My initial response to that was, what was it? It's that, probably your board member is not someone who's so financially, it probably wouldn't be a very effective board member.
Right. Yeah.
And then do you want that financial tie anyway? It's so important to them that anyway, it just, you would expect someone who's making, median income in the United States would be your average board member or better as far as, do they really need financial compensation for it to be diverse? Listen, you're not going to use, just let's be honest, and I'm a member of this class economically, lower middle class.
Right.
As your board members, probably not your board members.
Well, yeah, you don't want your stay-at-home mom with no connections except to other moms at the park that looks at this position and goes, that's $46,000. That's $30,000. I don't have to spend 6 hours a week. Heck yeah, I can go serve on this board. I didn't understand that at all. It
doesn't seem like it really would promote much economic diversity.
Right. And
if anything, it would just help. In fact, you could argue the opposite. If you pay a lot, you're grabbing those golden parachute big execs that are just getting a little bit extra money, and you're getting them for purposes of prestige. Look who we have on our board.
Oh, wait, I think that's down the list a little bit because we kind of contradict ourselves with that one. So you've got the economic diversity. And basically what I got from that was they're saying that if they are low income people, they would not be willing to give of their time unless they were paid. I don't find that true.
And the other aspect is that those other people, maybe they're not qualified for board, and it's not even really what they want to do, but they can certainly help the cause all along, and they don't get paid for any of that.
Right.
Volunteers don't get paid by definition.
Right. And that tells me that they're trying to say that, oh, you're poor, but if we pay you, you'll be on our board, and so we're trying to get these lower income people on the board when they would probably just do it as a volunteer anyway, because it's not that they're not giving people like these rich people over here. So that was just another slap in the face.
Devil's advocate, really quick, maybe through the volunteer efforts you find a diamond in the rough, but that person can still go be on the board. So they do come from just the volunteer effort. They don't have a lot of connections, but it's almost like that's their rise, is just how well they've done with your organization.
Well,
but that doesn't mean they need to be.
But one
they
of the
can
reasons,
still be on the board.
But one of the reasons to be on the board is to meet the people that are on the board, and maybe you are low income, and you meet the president of the bank that's on that board, and you get a better job.
Right.
Your compensation is already because of the networking that you're supposed to be making.
Agreed.
With this. So don't tell me, well, we want to get out of, and maybe we want to get out of the upper class, richer people, not because those big people are not sitting on some boards, but depending on the boards. But, we need to bring on some diversity, because if we pay them, we will. To me, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people that will give their last dollar, and they have nothing to show for it. That I don't think that they need to be paid.
Maybe they think that it's not high level; it's the lower level boards. It's like, well, what if you just get $100 a year?
Right.
Maybe it's okay there. It's a slippery slope.
Pay for their transportation to get there. If they need to take the bus, buy them a bus pass.
For their food.
Get them there, because that would improve them. Yeah, doing something, provide a meal. But compensating promotes. Now here's the difference: professionalism rather than amateurism.
This one did not make you happy.
No, because you're saying that, where did they go to school? Like board? Did they get the degree in boards? Because professionalism and amateurism, you're telling me that someone who gives of their time is going to give less because they're not getting paid? It's kind of like when you even have an employee and they say, if you pay me more, I will do a better job. Now, this isn't for everybody, because sometimes they're under, like if the person next to them is making $20 an hour and they're making $15 an hour, there's a little animosity. But if you suck at an employee and I give you $20 more an hour, you're probably still going to suck. So I don't understand how money makes you more professional than amateur.
Well, the conversation would be, geez, I'm not just doing that for free. I'm also, they're literally giving me $2,000 a month, so I'm going to prepare a little bit more.
Right.
So if they mean that, but
because that's a job.
Yeah, it's kind of like a job.
It's a job.
So that would be the conversation, but then it goes up against the idea of all the other things. So,
but as most board members are not paid, we're talking most aren't paid. That statement says that they're probably all a bunch of amateurs. And I've worked with nonprofits, they're not amateurs. If you pick it right, they're not.
In general, the boards are going to be people who have expertise.
Right.
They're just applying their expertise for your situation for free.
If you have done it correctly, you've picked board members that have all different skills that's going to bring it together for your nonprofit. And so you're not looking, but then if you're trying to pay for diversity and giving members of people that, don't know what they're doing from the number one, then you've brought nothing to the board but a warm body. Right. That's going to, what are they bringing? So anyway, compensation attracts the most qualified and able individuals. I don't find that either.
But it doesn't compensate for the other things that you're losing there.
Right. I didn't get that either. They're just slamming. These are just slamming all the people that volunteer, which is huge percent. Like, I don't know any boards around here that get paid. I'm going to have to ask that question.
Well, I mean, that's the argument. It's like, should this be the more general rule?
Right.
And then you don't have that. But yeah, same thing. Attracts the most qualified and able individuals. Maybe, but it's, again, just side money. You know, if it's small amount, you're paying them a lot of money because they're not full-time employees.
Right.
It's just side money. So are you getting the very qualified individuals, or are they waiting for the bigger compensation ones?
Right.
Are you getting the less qualified individuals who want the money since
right,
there's
they
money
need
available?
the money. And just because they get money doesn't mean they're going to be a good board member, as for employees. So,
Right.
yeah. Compensation awards in a tangible way, valuable personal time, and contributes made for the cause. Oh, isn't volunteering supposed to be something you do from the heart, that you're just like, I want to help this organization and I really want to see it through? Nope. You know what? We want to reward you for being a giver. No, because now I'm not a
Then you're
giver.
not a giver.
Yeah. Okay. Compensating promotes more risk taking. Yeah, because they might go out a little bit more to try a little bit harder to make more money because it's going to them, when they really should be focused on their mission and want to help them. I actually worked at a nonprofit where a particular person was there for themselves. It was very hard to get along with that person. And she did not want to be around the people that we helped. So when she first started, it was very hard for her because they were so underneath her, and I didn't understand. And it was a rough couple years being there till I quit, because her mission there wasn't to provide. It was always to have the money to make sure her check was there and that she got the bonus, and that's not how anybody
for the numbers.
It was numbers,
the metrics, as opposed to the truest of the mission.
right?
So the other thing, the argument around this would be, and I can see this would be a concept for nonprofits. You would know better. But when you do have non-paid board members, even if they have a little bit of oomph behind them as far as professionalism, it's always this. But see, this would be an introvert or someone who's never had any super high position, even though I've been always one of the best workers in my organization. You've never had the behind your name, the title behind your name. For those people, it could be tough to try to tell an executive what to do. But that would be the rarity.
Right.
Because for the most part, your board members are going to have a title behind their name.
Right.
They're an entrepreneur otherwise. They own 2 businesses, or they also happen to be an executive in
vice president.
That type of thing. So this idea, I was thinking, and I've kind of argued myself right out of it, that maybe this would be, hey, because you're compensated, you feel like you're more legitimate, and you'll do risk taking, as in opposing the executive, or really. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean properly policing and helping steer the
right.
nonprofit, and informing and advising properly, versus whatever the executive may or may not, like the president, the actual paid employee. If they have a bad idea, they're not good at their job. And if you're paid more, maybe you're more likely to keep it on course. But on the other hand, like I said, if that's not a good board member if you're not ready to do that.
Well, what about this board member? Compensation stimulates better attendance at board and committee meetings. Yeah, a lot. Like I work with a lot of different boards, and there are a lot of board people that don't show up. But when you pick your board, you should have to have it in there that if you don't make it to so many meetings, you're not on the board anymore. And that yes, outside life happens, so that's why a lot of boards try to do it during the workday, so that if they work for the electric company or they work for a bank or whatever, there's no reason for them not to be able to get off work, because it's just another part of their workday. They're already getting paid for that workday. So that's 6 hours that those people are making $46,000 a year, or $20,000, whatever they're getting paid. Where are those 6 hours happening? During their workday that they're making their salary already? Like, so they're getting double paid for their time. So it still blows my mind. You can just tell that I am not a fan of this at all.
Technically, a separate point, yeah, it would, but is it worth it? And it's just not enough of. It's like, yeah, if you got a scale, I'm doing my hands up and down like an actual old traditional scale. It's like great that you can put a bunch of sand, grains of sand over here on the one side. But if you got a brick of gold over here, you can have all kinds of grains of sand. It doesn't mean it really outweighs things. And to me, that's a grain of sand as far as the quote benefit to stimulate better attendance.
We have full-time volunteers at some of the nonprofits that I've worked at. They're there 8 hours a day, sorting through clothes. We've got churches that come in to provide food for the public. Not one penny. They're there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the only thing they get is the hot meal that we would provide at that one, or they volunteer over here to help do different things at different nonprofits. They're not getting a dime for putting in a 40-hour work week.
Well, is that a second question that's separate? It's like should you be trying to, maybe not minimum wage because they're volunteers, but when they work that hard and that long, do they get a few dollars an hour?
Now there's programs out here that you could join that would pay you to do it, but it's a whole different program that you have to go through. But some of these are on disability, so they can't make money. Some of them want to give for the kindness of their heart. They don't want the compensation. They get the services that we get. They're low income. We have these are not high income people that are volunteering, but they might even do
not for 8 hours.
Not for 8 hours a day because they've got to go to their job. But we also have other people that come in and just work 2 hours every morning for these things that volunteer. So I don't get the difference of these people who are dedicated to a mission and making it possible to these other people.
And then this last one, yeah.
Compensating holds board members more accountable. Oh, so if I don't get paid, I'm a loser? I'm sorry, none of these...
How would you police accountable, though? They're the bosses. That's what confuses me.
Yeah.
It holds them more accountable for their performance. They're the bosses, so who's deciding that they didn't do their job well?
Yeah. I'm sorry, this whole thing this just kind of was just when I read those, really you're trying to justify, and like you said, I'm sure some very high paid board members were like, we don't like your not to do list. We think that this is why it should be, and they came up with these 7 or 8 reasons who basically, and I know that I take things very extremely because, whatever, but every time I'm thinking non-paid board member reads this, they're like, what? Oh, I'm an amateur? What? Right. I'm not responsible? These board members that run some of these nonprofits are amazing, that the time that they give. Now, some board members, they're not, because they don't understand what a board is supposed to be. And I find that a nonprofit, it's their fault for not training their new board members appropriately. But then the executive director is so busy because staffs are so low because money has died down. And that's what we're getting into next on the excursion is the donations. Because I really believe that you guys need to be donating. The other day on Facebook, there was a conversation about, and I don't even remember what it was. And I made a comment and I deleted it. Well, I put it over here because I do not get political on my Facebook profile. I don't start conversations.
I do. I just try not to make it about the current president regardless.
Right.
I will get political, but because that just makes it way too too divisive.
So how much time does it take you with people commenting on your comments? If you put something political on there, how many people respond?
Not very many. I've alienated most of them.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah, I know. I told someone
I have a poli-sci minor, and right. My mass communication degree was motivated by the idea of being on radio, not to announce
nice.
music,
Right.
but to do
To get
commentary, political commentary.
Well, I was talking to my
that's part of something. It's like I need to have that part of me, even if, and plus I'm very much an idealist,
Right.
So when I see things not going anywhere close to right, it really bothers me, and I need to vent in some way.
And that's why I started Kimology 411, the group, so that I can say what I want to say in that group and talk. But on my profile, I have over 4,000 people from all over the United States. I have left, I have right, I have middle, I have top, I have bottom.
I'm so far right, I'm left, and I'm so far left, I'm right.
I'm in the middle. Like, I'm literally in the middle.
You know, that's the thing. That's the thing. Left and right, it just eventually curves around. It's a circle.
Right, it's a circle.
You can be so far right, it just twists back over to left, and vice versa.
Oh, not on my Facebook page. I can't put something on there because it will literally be, I will be attacked, I will be supported, I will be defended. It's an all day thing, and I have to say it exactly right. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do a podcast so that I don't have to spend all day defending my thing.
Words,
yeah.
Yes. So for me, I always I like the idea that you're not following among the very arbitrary categories that define left or right. So someone's like, yeah, right on. And then you say something else that doesn't follow right into that little silo. And it's like the opposite, but it's a mix of them.
Right.
And I just like the idea that people are like, I don't know if I should like this or not. I don't know what to do with this guy. I can't immediately love him and I can't immediately hate what he said. I like that idea that and I don't do it on purpose, but I'm a libertarian. It kind of comes naturally.
Well, and when I told my brother, because of course my brothers are not going to be listening to my podcast because they don't like to hear my voice in person. I know they both suck. But anyway, I told him who my co-host was, and he goes, "Oh, he gets very political." And I go, I know, it's going to be awesome. Like, once we get through and we get more stuff going forward, like, I don't want to alienate anyone on episode 3. So I want to be able to be informative. I want to have fun talking about it, because to me it's just such a joke half the time of what one person says, what one other person says, and we've talked about it of like, that's not even true.
Don't hold back, because I don't get offended easy in person.
Oh, and I don't get offended. I just don't have time to argue on Facebook. So the thing on Facebook, they were talking about charities and giving and all that kind of stuff. And one person made a comment that said, I think that the new tax laws are the reason that all the donations are going down. Because I had made a comment that, you guys are not opening up your eyes. You're not realizing that there are all these nonprofits that are hurting out there because they're not raising your taxes like everybody wants, but what they cut are social services. So they're not going to cut the bills that they need. The things that they're cutting out of the taxes are social services or education and all that kind of stuff. So
they're wasting money left and right, and
But they still waste money. They still cut. So that they don't have to increase our taxes, but they're cutting from our social services, and these grants are going away, and so we're asking for more money. We actually have our local mission, like I've said before, $2 million loss, and they project every year. So now they need $2 million more for our mission or whatever, and they're trying to say, well, it's because that the tax donations, people didn't donate, and my response to them was, I sort of agree, but what kind of world do we live in when people only donate so they don't have to pay taxes? The savings isn't...
To your point, it's misinformed.
Exactly. The savings isn't close to the money donated. I believe the reason is we are spending more and making less. We earn just enough to get by, and when we have extra, we buy fun toys or we pay off debt instead of donate. So
it's not the easiest thing to do. You said before, talk about the distinctions between how we donate and stuff. Go ahead. I interrupted you there.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so when we donate, you've got your time, you've got your money, evidently you don't have to serve on a board because you're going to get paid. But how much of that money do you donate back to the agency? Maybe they're donating it all back. Who knows? But there's different ways. There's different ways to help out these organizations, but they need money. They still need money. And so when taxes cut from social services and it hits your news and it's there for a minute because all of a sudden they're going to talk about something insignificant over here, but they say, hey, this organization needs help, and that's it, and it's a bleep, it's a blop, it's gone. We need to start paying attention, and we need to not look at these agencies like they're like desperate children begging for money, when in reality, they're so cut so thin. That being said, you need to know your organization. You need to go there if it's a local organization. I stopped. I'm not a donator of cash to any nonprofit. I always get paid to do my accounting there. It is required. I am not going to do accounting for free. I will volunteer at their events. I've never made enough money to really give money. It's only been lately, since like a year ago, that I started taking a percentage of my money and putting it in a separate account. And what I do is, when I see someone that I know needs a lot of help, I always give them the money. So let's say that someone that I know personally needs something, and it's just for 2 months and they're not going to be able to get a loan, I might say, here's $300. You don't have to pay it back to me. Because I never want that string attached to me of they owe me money.
Yep.
And so I save up my money, and I feel good about that. And sometimes they go, you know what? Here's the money back, because now you can give it to another person that needed it. My rent got paid. I got the check in. I finally got my child support, whatever it is. I want to know who I'm helping. So I'm helping people. That's what I do. Not the best way to do it, but I also don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. So I figured that my
Yeah, you do.
Well, my $10.3 million. Have you seen my new pool and hot tub?
Anyway, go ahead.
My spa. I put a new spa in. Yeah, no. But anyway, so that's kind of what I do. But when someone says, well, the tax laws changed and, people stopped giving. Well, first of all, no one...
Sounds like they saw some meme somewhere.
They did.
That said, things are more evil now.
Well, and I think it started in 2017. That they started, the media started telling them, you know what, they're changing it, and your donations are no longer going to count. And people started freaking out. I did have a couple people who... that I did taxes for in, I think it was 16 actually. They had itemized the year before with all their donations. They didn't own a house, but they gambled, and they had won like $30,000 at the casino, which allowed them to itemize to take that off. You don't have to, you can write it off. Not for state of Kansas, but for them. So they itemized, and they donated probably, I don't know, like $5,000. And so we took it off. Well, the next year they sent it all in, and I was like, well, you don't itemize, so I can't take off the donations. What? Well, forget it. We're not donating anymore.
Right.
Well, on the excursion, you're going to find out exactly how much they actually would have just saved on that $5,000 on their taxes, and was it worth hurting the organizations that depended on that money to provide an actual service. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about on the excursion for episode number 3. It's going to get into numbers. We're going to do some examples. And so if you're a numbers person and you kind of want to hear about that, you'll want to do excursion 3.
She pre-scouted on me so that I could follow a little bit better, because I love math, but I'm not,
You'd be great at bingo.
I'm telling you what. Dab, dab. Dab, 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 dab. I'll be ready with... you remember the old... we were at a local restaurant here that has a arcade. Remember the old track and field game?
Uh-huh.
And you try to sprint as fast as you can by hitting the 2 buttons. Uh-huh. I was pretty good at it for not playing for a while. The other day when I played, my niece and my sister were in town. Nephew and my sister were in town. And so I'd be like that on those dobbins. Absolutely.
You would.
On the bingo. If the announcer, I'd be like, faster, announcer, faster.
Faster.
I'm trying to go 100 meters here.
Oh, wow. I think this is enough Kimology 411 for today. You guys got a little bit of passion out of me for that one because I'm just still going to vote down. And so if you are on a board and you are being paid, go to Kimology 411 and defend your honor. I mean, you don't have to take me too seriously. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, we want you to serve on this board and we're going to pay you $100,000 a year.
You'd be like, I might reconsider my opinion.
I mean, I'm still against it.
This isn't right. Well, you know, this isn't right. But
I mean,
in this case,
if you need my skill.
There's a lot of that in society it really quickly where there's a lot of things where it's like, well, you know, theoretically, I'm not really for that, but what are you going to do? You need a job.
Right. I mean, honestly, if they were like...
I'm not saying this is a job, but that type of thing.
Who would turn down 6 hours a week for $45,000?
Yeah, a national security agency where, you know, they're kind of scummy. Oh, they're going to pay me $120?
I'm there.
Well, I might work for... After all, I'm a patriot.
Right.
You know?
I can justify. Bored, I would. A job, I have left multiple jobs because I don't agree. I cannot.
I tend to, and it's hurt my income. Pre-screen those, like,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to work there.
Yeah, I can't. I have morals, and I can't go against it, and I can't keep my mouth shut. So I'm either gonna not take the job, I'm gonna quit the job, or they're gonna fire me. Because that's happened before too. I get let go because I can't stand behind you doing it wrong, and
I can totally believe that.
You can't. I'm so shy and timid. I'm very afraid. Yeah. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for giving us your time. We appreciate our listeners and excited that our show is growing so fast. Make sure to comment in our Facebook group, Kimology 411. And if you haven't joined yet, why? I don't understand. You just joined, didn't you?
Yes.
Why did it take you so long?
I think I didn't. I don't know why.
Did you want to be fashionably late?
Just remember, though, guys, happy birthdays of future.
Oh, yes.
Past,
Kimology, yes. Thank you. Thanks, Tyson, for helping make Kimology so awesome. And they can check you out on
Facebook under Tyson Harley. There are other Tyson Harleys. This is a page. You'll see the little icon where the guy looks like he's rubbing his chin and thinking.
He's rubbing his chin. You can't see him, but I'm good.
You'll see the icon. It's a page as opposed to a person. And then over on any number of whatever Audio Boom distributes to, you can find the Scales of Truth. I think it now, if it's not, it will eventually be on Google, but definitely on Audio Boom is where the podcast itself is.
Very cool. Well, we'll all talk to you guys soon. Please make sure to keep going on all your adventures. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.